At the end of the day, all that matters is the fans. The people who are tuning in, turning up, investing in the sport. And they want to watch great golf on wonderful golf courses with the best players. People have a misconception that we did a close strategic alliance with the PGA Tour because of the arrival of a new product. We didn't. We've been talking to them for years because the reality was, there's no point being competitive. You're better together. So it's our job to make sure we maintain really good relationships with tours around the world, with the new competitors, with LIV and with PIF. I'd love to see a future where everything can come together. I mean, Rory's an unbelievable supporter of our tour. We have sort of rules. You have to play a minimum number. He plays way more than that. And when he comes to a tournament, he adds extraordinary focus and glamour. He provided us a couple of weeks ago at the Masters with one of the magic moments in sport. It was an unbelievable moment for golf, but for European golf, it was amazing. And I do think that presents the sport with a huge opportunity. I really do. I mean, I've seen the game.
Hello, Business of Sport pals. I know you just want to get on with the show, but there is an exciting announcement to make, and that is that we have just launched our Patreon. This is the chance to get you more involved in the show, in helping us choose our guests, ask some of the questions, get involved in the quickfire round. We want to give you the chance to win some really cool stash, go to some great events. Everything that you think you can't get access to right now, you're going to have in the Patreon, on top of some bonus content from me in an extra time format, revealing what it's really like when we go behind the camera with our guests. So make sure you drop in and see what the Patreon is all about. The first week is going to be free, so don't miss out on it. Now, that is enough from me. Time to get on with the show.
Guy, it's so great to have you with us. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm delighted that you're, what did you describe it? Breaking your duck with golf.
So how we enticed you into the studio, wasn't it?
Well, I'd have come anyway. But certainly when you said that there's the opportunity to showcase a bit of golf, I couldn't not do it. So thank you for having me.
You know, it's high time we do it. It's such a huge part of the sports industry. Before we go anywhere deep and complex, it's really important, I think, for everyone to understand what the European Tour actually is. So can you just give a little bit of a flavour for everyone on the roles and kind of setup and structure of the organisation that you work in?
Yeah, and very happily, because actually the European Tour, we are the European Tour group, but actually it's a bit of a misnomer because we happen to really be the global golf tour. We play in every corner of the world. We play 26 countries a year. We've been into about over 30 in our time as a tour, over 50 years. But we started as the European Tour. About 53 years ago, the touring pros, the pros broke away from club pros. We created a tour. The tour's been very successful. But in that time, it has grown. It's gone outside of its original domain, which was UK and continental Europe, into the Middle East, into North Africa. We now play in every corner of the world. And the European Tour Group is actually 4 tours and the Ryder Cup, which I'm sure we'll come to, which is rather good for the sport of golf, but also sport as a whole. The main tour, which used to be the European Tour, and then you'd have commentary going, here we are, the European Tour coming from Johannesburg, from Melbourne, from Shanghai. A few years ago, we actually changed the name of the tour. We, partner of ours, DP World, Dubai Ports Authority, who we'd worked with, took on the tournament title. Again, in the world of if you can't be good, be lucky. They had the word world in their title, so we have the DP World Tour, which is our main tour. We have a tour where the youngsters graduate onto that tour, which was called the Challenge Tour, recently become the Hotel Planner Tour. We have a tour for the guys who reach 50, which is our Legends Tour. And a few years ago, we created a thing called the G4D Tour, which is the golf for the disabled, which I have to say is some of the most inspiring golf I have ever seen. Because people with, serious disabilities play golf in a way that I literally stand in awe of what they do. So we have those 4 tours. And of course, we have the Ryder Cup, which is every 2 years. We stage it in Europe every 4 years. And it's a huge focal point for everything we do.
How influential was having a DP World Association in the naming of that tour, in reframing how you talked about it?
As you can imagine, there are commercial reasons for bringing in a tour title, and we wanted to look at those. But when it's a partner that we were as close with as we were, we'd known them for 10 years, they sponsored a tournament, and rather than saying, hey, we said, why don't you double down? You can do the whole tour. And they did. And solved that perception of, well, we're not really we really are the global golf tour. So that really helped. And what it allowed us to do was to have a look at how we present ourselves. So a couple of years ago, we had a look at this and we said, you know what? We go play every corner of the world. We play in some of our tournaments have a 100-year history or more, national opens, historic events. What we're going to do is we're going to create a series of swings. We have 5 swings. In Asia, in the Middle East, continental Europe, UK, we have all of those. We start, finish. And then you go into what we called, because we're really creative like that, we had 9 tournaments, so we called it the back 9. Thankfully, we had 9. And those are some of our biggest events. And those are later in the year when we can get all of the players from around the world to come and play. And then for the first time ever, we went into the playoffs. And we had playoffs last year. And in a world where there were questions about TV ratings and whatever else, we kind of bucked the trend last year. We were kind of 13% up over the whole year. We were over 30% up on the back 9, and we broke all records with the playoffs. And again, we getting slightly lucky. 2 Koreans playing off for the Korean Open in Seoul, 2 Spaniards playing off in Madrid for the Spanish Open. Rory, and he's done a lot in the last few weeks to really help the game. But even then, going on to win what we have a money list that runs all year. The Race to Dubai. Who is the person who's won the Order of Merit for Europe? And he won it for the 6th time, equaling what Seve had done. And that was fantastic for us. So we had a great year last year, and we're now trying to build on it this year.
And which players are playing on the tour? How does that work? How do you get the talent in your events?
We like to think that we are the sort of the platform for global talent. Of course, traditionally it's been European players, but we now have a lot of players coming out of Asia Pac, from South Africa, from Australia, from all over the world. And people qualify through different ways, either through the Hotel Planner Tour onto the DP World Tour, or through a tour school. They earn playing privileges. And we have a lot of players who play week in, week out. We have some players who also play our tour and the PGA Tour, where there are huge prize money levels. But they come back and play in some of our events. And so you have a mixture. You have a mixture of great local heroes. You know, we play the Indian Open, and you have Shubhankar Sharma and others playing there. You have local heroes. You have historic players. You have some of our global superstars. I mean, Rory's an unbelievable supporter of our tour. We have sort of rules. You have to play a minimum number. He plays way more than that. And when he comes to a tournament, he adds extraordinary focus and glamour. And it's almost back to the days I was working in the business when Tiger came along. And he transformed golf. I mean, to have the global sporting icon in the world in your sport. He's done that. I think Rory's about to do the same. First European ever to have the Grand Slam. And he's so articulate. And what he's done, he provided us a couple of weeks ago at the Masters with one of the magic moments in sport. Let's be honest, we all sat there going, oh my. But didn't it make it all the more? I mean, the moment when he finished it off and him against Rosie, it was an unbelievable moment for golf. But for European golf, global golf, it was amazing. And it was done kind of the Rory way, heart in mouth, but he got it done. And I do think that presents the sport with a huge opportunity. I really do. I mean, I've seen the game go through what has been a couple of eras. We're maybe going into a new one. So we originally had the big 3. My old boss at IMG, Mark McCormack, signed the sort of Jack Nicklaus, Arnold Palmer, Gary Player, and that was amazing. That brought golf to the global attention. We then had the Woods era. In Europe, we had a big 5 of Europeans, but Tiger transformed the game. And suddenly now...
How did Tiger transform the game? Bringing in the big brands, bringing in the global audience. What was it about Tiger's charisma, magnetism that changed the game?
I remember someone saying if Tiger hadn't been born the way Tiger was born, that someone would have tried to make him in a laboratory, because he was almost perfect in every way for what we needed in golf. Because he took the game, not just geographically, took it globally, he took it to new demographics. And he also played in a way that was unbelievably exciting. And you always look at what makes a sport really, really appealing. It's either fierce, incredibly close rivalries, or it is one single, utterly dominant player. And Tiger was that single, utterly dominant player. And listening to his peers, it's not just me, I'd sit there watching what he did and the effect he had, and he transformed commercially, for broadcasters, everything. There was an interest in the game that we would never had before. But you would listen to the other players, and I'd say to them, guys, every single one of us who's lucky enough to work in this great sport should really find a way of going and thanking Tiger every single day because he transformed the sport. He really did. And he still has a huge influence. He's playing an important role for the future of the game, as Rory will have an incredibly important role. So we are really lucky. I mean, I think golf, there's been lots of coverage of golf recently, some good, some less so. But the reality is I think golf's got a huge opportunity to go completely global now.
How does Rory bring about a new opportunity? Again, is it new brands? Is it new sponsors, new audiences, reinvigorating existing audiences? What does he actually do?
I think he does all of what you've just said. What you have in Rory, and that's where we're so fortunate, is you have someone who plays in a way that totally appeals to people. So just as you said, wouldn't it have been nice if he'd cruised to an 11-shot victory? But that isn't Rory. He plays shots like he played at 7 and 15, like you've never seen before, and then he's fallible.
15 is probably the best golf shot I think I've ever seen.
Oh, it's unbelievable. I mean, no one could imagine that. But what he does is that people can engage with it because it's human. And you can see that. And that moment when he fell to his knees, I mean, I've done this for 35 years. I had tears in my eyes. I mean, it was unbelievable. So what he does is he appeals on a human level. He's also very articulate, extremely competent businessman. He's got a tech fund already. He launched a sports fund yesterday. He is involved in the sport in lots of different levels. He speaks infinitely better than I ever could about the sport. So he's a great spokesman. He's young enough now to take the game around the world. He's always travelled. Tiger travelled. So when he plays in a tournament, he'll transform it. If he goes to a market that we're looking to expand in for the sport of golf, having a superstar like that going there attracts interest, commercial, government interest, broadcast, content, all the ways that we can grow the sport. Because golf has to shake off some preconceptions, and I think it's doing that right now. At the moment, all the figures are showing people are coming to the game. We kind of came out of a tough time at COVID, and people had found they were drawn to golf because it's the most naturally socially distant sport there is. When I play, I'm 100 yards off in the trees. I ain't nowhere near anyone else. So, the sport came out stronger, and we refined what we did, and we made a good product. But now he's able to take it, I think, to an all-new level. Because you've had only the 6th guy ever to have the Grand Slam, which is an extraordinary achievement to win all of the 4 majors. The first European to do that. I think it gives him a platform to take the game. And when he goes, he will also understand his responsibility and speak in a way that will help elevate the sport in that region. We're very lucky.
He's such a good example of this as well, because he could very easily play where the majority of the money is, where the majority of the eyeballs are, and not necessarily give the focus to a European tour, a DP World Tour now that it requires. But how do you build those relationships with the key talent coming out of Europe to ensure that they give back to the game here to enable you to be able to continue to compete at the top level rather than just keep losing them to maybe where the most money is or where the biggest eyeballs are?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very good question because we get accused a little bit of allowing a slight brain drain of talent. Our top 10 performers each year get the right to go and play on the PGA Tour. They remain members of our tour, they play both tours, but they have the chance to go play there. And it's back to the days when my old days as an agent. You want to give the players the chance to play on the biggest stage, and to give those guys the chance to go and play is wonderful. And at the moment, huge riches on the PGA Tour and most of the commercial value. I think in the future this may change as it grows globally, but right now there's a lot in the US. But for us, those players, and they really do, they are wired that way. Most of them understand they've learnt their trade on the DP World Tour. They travel the globe. They become citizens of the world. They learn how to do that. We think they come out as very complete golfers. And they've gone over there and they played on the biggest stage and they've done really well. This time a year ago, we had 1 European, I think, winner. This time, so far this year, we've got 7 DP World Tour winners, European winners, on the PGA Tour. Our guys are good. And they also have this kind of mindset which is they've come from the tour. They want to come back and play in their national opens. They want to play in events that mean a lot to them. Our BMW PGA at Wentworth, they love coming there. They like playing up on the mountain in Crawl, Dunhill. All of these events, we've been in the Middle East for 35 years. They love playing there. So one, they like to come back to events. They like to come back and support their national opens. They also have the mindset that we've engendered in the team room of a European Ryder Cup, which is like nothing else. I mean, those guys love that experience. It's the one time every 2 years they play golf. They're not paid anything. They're there. They love it. They're there for their country, their continent, their teammates, everyone around it. They play, and I've seen it. You watch what they go through that week. If they played it once, they want to get back. And there's almost a sort of culture that gets bred. So we, as a tour, have always kind of punched above our weight. We kind of get underestimated, and then, look, suddenly they're quite good in the Ryder Cup. It's the same almost with these players. They come back and they want to show that they remember where they came from. And I think we've been very lucky, because it isn't just Rory. There is a bunch of those guys who always come back and support us, and that's given us the strength in the tour we need.
Can I ask you, what's the money difference, PGA versus you?
I mean, at the moment, we play for, I think the prize money level is just over $160 million on the DP World Tour, on the main tour. And I think on the PGA Tour, with prize money and other benefits that players can play for, it's up 700-800 million. So it's a very significant opportunity for the players. So for them to say, you know what, we're going to come back and we're going to play in some of those events on the DP World Tour, they're doing it for reasons other than just entirely financial. But also, there is an element, and we're really lucky with this. Every great kind of spectacular in sport needs a story. For us, the history, the legacy, the heritage, which sounds a bit old and dull, but we do things in a kind of cool way with the sort of our content, whatever. But to be playing for things that really matter around the world in tournaments, that when one of them wins and lifts a trophy on Sunday afternoon and looks down, they all have the names at the bottom of the thing, and you see the names like Nicholas and Palmer, Ballesteros, Woods, Faldo, whatever it may be, Monty, others on that list. They're playing for something that really matters, and they want to come and do that. And you see these guys coming to do it. So you're right, there's more to it than just purely commercial decisions.
Because it's about 3 to 4 million, I think now. I mean, Full Swing has been fantastic. I'm sure we're going to talk about the
Do you know who I blame? I blame my mother. She should have put a golf club in my hand sooner.
You should have a word with her.
I was terrible.
We've had a look at this. There is a thing about natural talent, which we won't go into because clearly you'd have it. But the truth is, right now, being a professional golfer has never been a better time. The opportunities there are, and we've looked at the analysis when I was back in agency. If you were going to have, as you clearly are, an immensely gifted sporting child, what is the best sport? And everyone go, it's got to be football. But funnily enough, golf, because they're now so good, so young, you've got teenagers who come out ready to win and compete on tour, and you've got guys who are still playing in 50s, 60s, 70s. Gary Player's 90 and he plays every day. He shoots 70. Arnold Palmer, in his 80s, when he didn't play anymore, he was in the top 10 highest earning athletes in the world, because golf is a really long career and you can earn in different ways in it. So, yeah, you need to have a word with Mum.
I played at Nairn a few years ago up in Scotland. Suddenly there were loads of people that started gathering around, and we were in the clubhouse probably an hour before tee off and just looked out the window, and there was just this tiny figure hobbling up to the tee box all in black. Gary Player was playing Nairn for the first time. You watching him drive off the face. He's 89, I think he was at the time.
Well,
and just the swing. You sit and watch this man. I think he played it in 4 over or something.
He obviously breaks his age every single time. One, he would certainly question the reference to hobble, because Gary is the fittest man on the planet. He probably cartwheeled up to the first and off he went.
Exactly.
But the truth is, that's a great story. There is a guy who I think it's his 90th birthday this year. Yeah. You're absolutely right. And he plays this game and he loves this game and he's such a great spokesman for it. There's something magical about going to a great course like that. And the fact he's going there, and you said he was playing for the first time?
I think that was he was doing a tour of that side, so the Inverness area, because he'd never actually played. I think he'd never played that. He'd never played Dornoch. He'd never played something else. And so he, at this stage of his life, just said, I have to play these courses.
And he'll have played, and he will have gone into the bar for an hour and talked to every single member, guest, whatever, and told them stories and told them about how they should be fitter and da-da-da-da. But that's where we're lucky, because we have those characters that inspire in the way that a Rory and Tiger did. We've still got Jack Nicklaus and Gary Player. It was a privilege. I used to work really closely with Arnold Palmer, who was the first guy who really made golf cool. I mean, he just democratized, he dragged people in.
This really feeds into a conversation we have a lot with our guests, and it's the increasing importance of athletes as individual brands and leveraging the talent now to drive your games forward. We often speak, you've got to make the most of your career if you're a footballer or a rugby player while you're playing, while you're current, and that's generally 10 to 15 years. Leverage that. This is so different in the way that, as you said, you can be incredibly marketable at 20. You can be incredibly marketable in a different way at 70.
Oh, yeah.
And the value to you as a governing body, as a broader sport, as an institution, must be really unique in the sense that you can leverage people to completely different audiences. You're not just having to target something specifically.
I think that's right. I mean, we know the traditional golfing audience, and it's incredibly valuable. It's ABC One. Every brand loves the golf audience because we have certain huge assets. Golf's all about honesty, integrity, self-policing. You don't give it a kick in the rough because you're cheating yourself and all that sort of stuff. We also have the ability, the handicap system. I mean, I don't know that me knocking up against Jack Draper would be a very worthwhile exercise and driving against Lewis Hamilton. But all three of us can go and play against Rory because the handicap system allows you to play like that. Plus, in a commercial sense, the Pro-Am is magic. You send your most important guests out for 4.5 hours with a brilliant golfer who is articulate. End of that, you've got the meeting out of the palm of your hand. So golf has these huge assets. And we now have, that's why we have all the tours, because we can see the value. We need to give the players, my job is really simple. I work for 400 members. And they are the members of European Tour Group. And my job is purely to keep them happy, give them an opportunity to play. 400 members, 400 different opinions, so you listen to them all. But the reality is, they are now emerging as teenagers with extraordinary talent from corners of the world we've never expected. You've got to cater for them. Main tour, over 50s, but all of them offer something different. And they do that very well. And for me, the opportunity is also, if we can, in the future, bring the game together, it'll allow us to involve also the women's game, which is really growing. And we would love to see grow more. We have mixed events, which is really important. So I think it's, as you say, the different parts of it appeal to different demographics. That's what golf, we don't claim to be the biggest sport in the world, but it's a really interesting sport. And it's a sport that everyone gets drawn to. You only have to look, businessmen, sportsmen, they finish their playing careers. But look what's happening in tennis right now. All of them play. Roger, Rafa, Andy. Yeah. Novak came to the Ryder Cup in Rome. He was brilliant. All four of them. And guess what? They'll all want to be really good. Yeah. And, Rafa's probably stolen the march, but they'll all be trying to compete.
Has he?
Oh, absolutely. But we have other people. You saw Tom Holland's there, all the F1 drivers. And, Gareth Bale is brilliant. So you have people drawn to the sport after they've done what they've done, which is great. It brings a new demographic.
Miami Grand Prix this weekend. Big bit of content put out yesterday that I saw. Tom Brady and Carlos Sainz playing golf.
Exactly right.
Neither of them golfers. Massive celebrities, massive sports people, and they're there for that weekend. What are they doing?
And they're playing
golf.
And golf is that great level. And we have these, the PGA Tour have done it. We've done stuff with creators, the sort of the social media influencers who take the sport to a completely different audience. But Carlos was brilliant. He came to the Ryder Cup as well and was just, they're so giving of their time because it's something about, it's the nature of the sport. You are walking around for 4 hours and there's time to interact and talk and all of that.
What did you think about the crossover when they did the, I think it was Vegas, wasn't it? When they did with Netflix and you had golfers and Formula One drivers teaming up to do it. Is that something that you think is brilliant for the sport? Because we chat about it loads where the purists go, the innovators go, we need to do it.
The truth is, we have to innovate. We have to change. That's a really good thing. Change is good. And people will think of golfers, people in blazers and ties and things like that. And there's room for that, but there's room for everything else. Golf can be consumed in lots of different ways. Our traditional is 72-hole stroke play. But you play match play in the Ryder Cup. Everyone loves it. Pairs event a couple of weeks ago. Rory and Shane playing, the Højgaard twins. People love that. TGL this year launched. Really good golf in a different way. So there's lots of different ways of doing it. I loved the golfers and the F1 guys. But anything that shows the sport in a different way, that appeals to different people, brings different people to it. I've always said golf's so hard on itself. To be, quote, a golf fan, I think I've had to have played 18 holes 4 times a year. Well, that excludes almost everyone. If you're sitting there and you've never actually been out on a golf course, but you're gaming, or you're going to Topgolf, listening to the music and eating chicken wings and whatever it may be, you are a golf fan. And so finding different ways to bring people globally to the game. I mean, in Korea, it is entirely common practice for everyone to finish work, head to a bar, golf's on, hitting balls into a screen. You've got people who've never been out playing golf on grass who can go, I shot 68 round Pine Valley. It is all about getting new audiences in. And I think golf's doing that. And there's room for different formats. That's the magic of the game. It's mixed sport, old and young. I mean, I go out with my kids. You can go and play it with an 80-year-old guy. It's got all of those assets. Use them. It was announced last week. The Olympics.
Pointed at me with that. You were like, you can go out with an 80-year-old.
I was thinking of taking some elderly relatives out with
you.
You.
Very kind of you. Me and Gary go out together hobbling.
Not hobbling, cartwheeling. Thank you.
No,
sorry. Springing in a sprightly way. Yeah. But, last week they announced that there's going to be mixed Olympics in golf. So you've got a men's competition, women's competition. That's great. We only get 6 medals. Everyone, swimming has about 300. But we wanted more. So actually having a mixed event, the men and the women playing together as part of that, is more medals. But also, it's what golf can do. Mixed golf is a good thing.
So much of it is dependent on the governance of the sport being able to deliver what we, the fans, really all want to see. And over the last few years, there's been so much around this. With the rise of LIV Golf, but also we haven't really talked about the relationships between European Tour, PGA, and then obviously why that's been a problem having something like LIV. So can you talk about the significance, I guess, of the strategic alliance, why it's been so important for the development of the game, for these governing bodies to exist and keep developing together to ensure the sport doesn't lose any of that magic that you've just described? I
mean, you started the question with exactly the right reference, which was as fans. And sometimes people forget that. They get buried in sort of the politics of these sort of things. At the end of the day, all that matters is the fans. The people who are tuning in, turning up, investing in the sport. We've got to think about them. And they want to watch great golf on wonderful golf courses with the best players. So people have a misconception that we did a close strategic alliance with the PGA Tour because of the arrival of a new product. We didn't. We've been talking to them for years because the reality was, there's no point being competitive. You're better together. So the 2 biggest, strongest tours, DP World Tour, PGA Tour, it was much better that we worked together. And we have a strategic alliance that works very well with what is clearly the strongest golfing body in the world right now. And that has worked very well, and we enjoy that. At the same time, we as a tour, we're the international tour. We want to see the game be global. We want to see it more united. So it's our job to make sure we maintain really good relationships with tours around the world, with the new competitors, with LIV and with PIF. I'd love to see a future where everything can come together. People see this as a challenge, and as you said, there's been a lot of coverage. I see it as an opportunity. What you've got for the first time is private equity investment coming into the sport. You've got participation numbers up, people thinking globally. All of those are really good things. It's our job to try and find a way, pulling all of that together, to support the game, not just at the very pinnacle of that pyramid with the professional players, but at all levels. Wouldn't it be wonderful to see investment in the women's game as well, which we all want to do, but also grassroots, bringing in sort of the next generation, attracting those. So for me, I think it's something, an opportunity to be grasped, and hopefully we will do that in the years to come.
Do you ever feel pressure from more original stakeholders, the traditional golf audience that people stereotypically have, just in terms of you saying grasp the opportunity? They will be going, fuck that, this is not an opportunity, it's destroying our sport, blah 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 blah.
An awful lot of them are a little bit more open-minded than we'd imagine, because the bottom line is that actually opening the game up more, making it more appealing, is not in any way diminishing what are all of those. As I said, the sport has a wonderful asset in its history and its legacy and its relevance and things mattering, and all of that is great. But there's an ability to take that, nurture it, make it more appealing to people, but also add new audiences, whether that's new formats. And that doesn't impact what is being done elsewhere. But our tour is being really well received. Satisfaction surveys amongst fans, amongst broadcasters. We are getting much, much more investment in sponsorship than we've ever had before. Consumer levels are up. All of these things are good. But what we try and do is to try and attract an audience in a slightly different way. A lot of the content we've made is done with a bit of a smile on our faces. And we're really lucky. Our players not only give time to do great content, and we've done stuff. The Angry Golfers, the Mollywood, Tommy Fleetwood, Francesco Molinari, wonderful stuff. And it really attracts an audience because what it's doing is taking golf, but doing it with a smile. And our guys give time up to do that, not only because actually it helps us and it helps the game, it also helps them. It puts them in a new light. But by doing that, I think there's a way of satisfying the history, but also providing for what I think can be a really exciting future. And all of that's compatible. It is not mutually exclusive.
But the challenge is, and will always be, in a sport defined by individuals, if you have multiple competitions fighting for that same group of players, the challenge will be fragmentation. And we want, ultimately in sport, whether it's boxing, whether it's football, whether it's golf, whether it's tennis, you want to see the best playing the best.
100% right. And at the moment, you've got an awful lot of golf tournaments around the world competing for the same players. And I think the opportunity that presents itself, therefore, getting all of these different stakeholders, who, let's be honest, love golf. They're investing in this because they love golf. They see the value in golf. If you find a way of working that so that you can consolidate and make sure that a global schedule that will allow for that to happen more often, the moment the best players in the world or in the men's game play together in the majors, we want that to happen more often. We want there to be massive events in the US, massive events around the world. And as you say, it's just providing different formats that are appealing to the fans. We know the Ryder Cup, everyone loves it. But if you did it every week, or you did it, more, or changed it, that wouldn't be appealing to them. So it's our job, I think, to say, that's what the fans want. Let's listen. We've got an ability to try and make that happen, and people want to make it happen.
But you do have to say, don't you? I mean, you recognise the Ryder Cup as the most valuable asset that you have, and therefore being able to create a connection between participating in the Ryder Cup and participating in the DP World Tour. No matter how nice we want to be to everyone, you have to retain that to keep the value of the DP World Tour.
I'm sorry, this shows how naive I am, but can you play in the Ryder Cup without doing the DP World?
No, you can't. No. So to be, just so you know, you are nearly qualified to play in the Ryder Cup because you only have to be two things. You have to be born in Europe. I think you can. I don't know, but I assume that ticks your box. And you have to be a member of our tour. And to be a member of our tour, you have to play within the rules. And I think the current rules are you've got to play a minimum of 4 tournaments. And so the player, in the world,
but that's smart.
But in the world of stick and carrot, you don't want to make it stick. The truth is, very few of the guys play just 4. Most play a lot more than that. Rory plays well over double that. And that's not because he wants to qualify for it. It's because he wants to play in his home National Open, the Irish Open. He loves playing in Wentworth. He loves playing in Dubai. He wins a lot of these. So he comes and does that. Other guys who play on the PGA Tour, Shane Lowry, Tommy Fleetwood, they're wonderful supporters of our tour at events sometimes opposite the PGA Tour, sometimes when the FedEx Cup's finished.
But let's not diminish it as well. Explain the race to Dubai, the prize pot. We're not talking about their sacrifice. They're still great.
It's not insignificant. Yeah. It's nice to reward players because you know what? I come again from my old world of being an agent. These guys work really hard. They train, they work, they have immense talent. They are immensely hardworking people, and they're real athletes. They deserve these riches. And so I'm happy to see them get it. That's our job, is to provide a platform.
I'm just trying to understand the business behind it, though, and trying to understand inflows and outflows. And it's what are the outflows then? What are the costs of the business?
For us, we put on over 40 tournaments on the DP World Tour. We have about 30 tournaments on the Hotel Planner Tour.
And do you pay for the courses? Do they not?
So the two different models. There are events that we own and run, and there are events where a promoter will come in and take that responsibility. And you've got to build, and this is where we do it, and we work really hard to do it in as sustainable way as we can. But effectively, you're building a little town, sometimes a really big town when it's a Ryder Cup or one of the other events, for every week. And you do that in different countries, and then the roadshow moves on. So it's not unlike what we do, is not unlike the F1 model. So there's the cost, absolutely, of building a tournament and setting up to produce the extraordinary coverage that we make globally for a world feed, goes on Sky, NBC, and around the globe. 800 million people watching around the world. There are huge costs to putting all of that on. And then you get the benefits of sponsorship and media rights and consumer revenue. And people are coming to tournaments more than ever. And I think it was extraordinary how the sort of the consumer revenues have been growing for the tour because people like the sport. So it's a balance. And you've got to make sure you're getting more in than the costs are going out.
Is the revenue split pretty balanced between, you mentioned those three core areas, media rights, sponsorship and events. Percentage-wise, are they pretty level in what they deliver for you?
It's been really interesting. The consumer area is the biggest area of growth.
And what do you mean by consumer area?
So consumer, I mean sort of ticketing, premium hospitality, merchandise, all of the good stuff that comes with that. And that's an area that we are growing and is showing the fastest area of growth. The traditional areas of sponsorship, which comes in either as title sponsors or as what we call official marketing partners, and they support the tour throughout the year, that's been growing really fast. And that's almost been a surprise because, there's been uncertainty in the sport. People haven't known what's been going on. And yet, our most loyal sponsors and partners have stuck with us and have extended, and a lot with long-term arrangements. And we've had amazing new investments. So since 2019, pre-COVID, we've now doubled the sponsorship revenues that come into the DP World Tour. From my first job when I went to the tour was the Ryder Cup in Paris in 2018. I thought, you can't better that. In 2023, we had trebled sponsorship revenues coming in. Now, for sure, costs have gone up as well. Yeah. And the supply chain and war in Europe and all of these things didn't make it easy. So we needed to do that. But the reality is revenues are growing. Golf is very appealing to traditionally these blue chip brands. You always knew that you were going to have fashion, hotels, airlines, auto, boom, 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 boom. But what's been really interesting, and it's kind of what we were talking about before we did this, there are new brands being drawn to it because there's a lovely story about golf. I mean, as a sport, we punch way above our weight in terms of the investment we get and the media rights we get, and all of those have been strong. What's been really exciting is I think there are new brands being attracted to the sport. And at the moment, we're able to go, you know what? We're all working together. I think there'll be a big bounce.
What area are you not currently working in, or what industry do you not partner with? It could be brand or broad stroke that you think could benefit significantly from partnering with golf?
I think that the area of, we've woken up to the fact that golf is really data rich. And we've improved our coverage, the experience for the fans online and at tournaments. So the tech side is really interesting, and the tech side improving the product, but also coming on board as sponsors. Cybersecurity is incredibly important to us right now, to everyone, as we've all seen last week. So again, they're people who support us, may become sponsors. What's also interesting is golf is a really valuable sport to take around the world. So the conversations we have with governments, I'm probably making up this stat, but I'll stand by it. But a golf tourist, I think, on average, spends something like 5 or 6 times more than a regular tourist and stays longer because they come in to see the sights and then they play and whatever. We delivered an economic impact report in Rome following the Ryder Cup, which showed, I think, 300 million, just under 300 million investment into Rome and Italy, driven by the event. Because people come in and go, go to the Amalfi Coast, go and watch this great event, we'll go and play some golf afterwards. So as we go around the world, to countries that may have historically been drawn to other sports. We just announced our second tournament in India. Imagine we could take a little bit of the otherwise cricket-focused support in India and turned it into golf. And there are other countries like that. We go to so many countries where you deal with the government and they see the value in having a golf product. So we started our first ever golf tournament in Dubai in 1989. And there was just a small city, lots of sand, and a single golf course, which was opposite the aluminium factory, because a byproduct of the aluminium smelting process was clean enough water to build a golf course. So that has grown from there to being this, enormous focus for us in the Middle East. And they now have multiple golf courses in Dubai, in Abu Dhabi, in Saudi, in Bahrain, in Ras Al Khaimah, Qatar. And they see the value in golf as a tourism product. So there are all sorts of areas that we can get to as we go
Well,
forward.
look, for anything that LIV is or isn't, it's what's really interesting on the sport is that it's been chosen as a major thing for a country looking to build its recognition on a global stage as such a core asset of that.
Correct.
They have chosen the value of that sport to pump a lot of money into and elevate who they believe they are, within this environment. So it's interesting the power of sport that's clearly recognised.
And I think you're absolutely right, because what would be singularly worst? At the moment, what we have is people wanting to invest in our sport like they've never done before. And that's leading to things that need to now be worked out. The worst thing would be no one wanting to invest in our sport because they didn't really see it as appealing. The reality is these are very smart people. They're not investing for fun. They're investing because they believe this sport is, if it goes more global and more united, can be incredibly valuable. So I welcome that. And, you're absolutely right. We have a choice. It's not a choice between, or they have a choice probably rather more than we do. It's not a choice of different golfing products. They can choose to invest in other sports, in arts, in entertainment, in other ways. Our job is collectively to make the sport of golf as appealing as it can possibly be to current and future sponsorship, fans, broadcasters and everything.
If I was private equity and I'm looking at investing in golf, not LIV, so existing competition federations, how could I do that? Could I invest in the DP World Tour?
A great question. We are not an investable entity. We're a members tour. I work for 400 players. I'm heading out to Turkey on Monday to sit and listen to my players. That's all I have to do. My job is kind of listen to my members, act on that, listen to stuff.
Oh, dude, that sucks. I'm sorry.
You think it does?
Yeah, go and hang out in Turkey for a couple of days.
It's really tough, but someone has to.
Go play some golf.
Yeah, I know. It is when you go, God, I had such a busy week in Augusta, and everyone's like, yeah, right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay. But the truth is, it's actually fascinating. You get to go and do that. So, no, we're not investable as such. But there are lots of ways to be involved in the sport. PGA Tour Enterprise is something that's different in the States. But the reality is people who are drawn to golf can get involved in many ways. That's sponsorship. They can get involved in ownership of courses and all of that. And we're seeing that happening. So there are so many ways to be associated with a sport that you see the value in.
So if you're owned by your 400 members, or that's kind of the structure, if you have, as companies do, profits at end of year, where does that go to? Is that reinvested? Is that dividends? How does the structure impact distributions?
Our job is, we're non-profit. Everything we make has to go to our members. So our goal each year is to make sure that we generate enough to put on as prize money for all of our members. And we have some great sponsorship, as we said, to have the people like DP World and Rolex, BMW, Genesis, all of these brands that we work with helps us. We have an amazing relationship with the PGA Tour, who provide financial support as part of the arrangements we have with them. So all of this is to make sure that we don't end up with profit. Sure, we invest to improve our product. So, the monies we make on the Ryder Cup are to be used to help benefit the members of the tour. It's also used to make sure that we put on what we think is the biggest and best show in golf. So you improve your product and you provide prize money for your members.
If I were to say, hey, here's 500 million now, I'm leading an investment in an investable entity for this, for you, what would you spend on today that you're not able to given the structure that you have?
What a good question, and thank you for the offer. That's very kind. We'll follow up afterwards. I think we can have a number of tournaments with your name and image all over them.
I just want the Stebbings Open.
If you could, yes, it's perfectly doable.
It's 2 holes, very short.
And then you go to your halfway house, which is after 2 holes. Yeah, perfect, very good.
One whole halfway house, not next hole.
I don't want to do 2 without a halfway house.
No, I know, and you're going to have to wear your T-shirt, and I know probably flip-flops, but it's doable. For you, Mr. Stebbings, not a problem. We'll find a way. But the truth is, what I'd love to see with your investment, and we'll work on it, is to... we have 4 majors, which are wonderful. As we saw a couple of weeks ago, the Masters was just brilliant. All of the majors are wonderful. The Ryder Cup is exceptional. I would love to see international events around the world. We don't necessarily need to build new ones. We can take historical ones with those trophies with all the names on them and elevate those still further. And I would love to see an ability to make those bigger, stronger events, increase prize money, stronger fields, and do them in the right markets. So we've talked about the joy of going to European capital cities, going to Paris, going to Rome, the idea of going to the Middle East. But also we've got huge golf markets and historical golf markets where the man in black came from in South Africa. In Australia, we've got some wonderful players. Adam Scott sits on the PGA Tour board, and you'd want to see the events in Australia grow. We've gone into Asia Pac. We've done events. We do the National Open in China. We do the National Open in India. I would love to see those events, with your name on them, obviously, very happily, elevated to such a level that people look not just as, hey, the majors and the big PGA Tour events, look at it as huge global events. And that, I think, is the opportunity for the game, global unity.
When you see all of those different markets, where do you think golf is still small but has the biggest opportunity to be very big?
I mean, I think that I was really excited when we announced last week that we were going with DP World, our partners, to do a second event in India. The Indian Open is sponsored by Hero. DP World are going in to do another event in India. And I think that market is ripe for growth.
Is golf big in India now?
No, but it has been. We've played multiple events there. There's a sort of a historical British influence there, but we're getting some great Indian players coming out.
There are some good courses as
and
well.
There are some good courses.
Which is, let's be honest, that's really important because this is infrastructure driven as well.
100% right. I mean, the course that we play at the National Open at DLF is amazing. We're going to be going to Delhi Country Club which is a wonderful historical course for this DP World event. I think India's a huge opportunity. I think that China still remains, whilst we focused on it. Back in the day, I remember a World Golf Championship, one of the top then 8 events in the world, went to Shanghai. Mr. Woods kindly turned up, along with a lot of the other players, and inspired people there. And golf, there's a different perception of golf now in China. I think there's an opportunity there. And again, we are there. There are wonderful golf markets. I mean, Japan remains the second biggest national golf market in the world after North America. And Japan had the Olympics for golf, and I think there's an opportunity there. Korea has been is huge growth there, and they love the sport of golf. And the women have led the way, but the guys are catching up. Yeah. Your Tom Kims, Ben Ans, and others. So those are, I think, huge opportunity markets. I think there is more to be done in the Middle East, and I think there is more to be done in emerging, probably Eastern European countries who have an interest in golf. And golf, we have a pathway for people who have an interest. You go, put on a tournament on our Hotel Planner Tour, graduate to a tour or indeed on the Legends Tour, and then go to the DP World Tour. And who knows, one day the Ryder Cup might come to your country, your course.
Can we do that now? Because I've been kind of touching around it, but one of the best events, not just in golf, but in sport. Right? We're in a Ryder Cup year as well. I don't even want to put any words in your mouth. Can you tell us about the Ryder Cup and how important this is?
I mean, it's kind of the reason I'm working at European Tour Group, because I'd worked very happily as an agent for nearly 30 years at IMG and had the most wonderful time. But when the chance came to run the Ryder Cup 8 years ago, I couldn't miss it, because there's something very, very special about an event which is nothing about prize money. You talk about the walk to glory up the 18th at Open, or you watch Tiger win and Rory at 18 at Augusta. The first tee at the Ryder Cup is like nothing else in sport. The crowd that doesn't behave suddenly like polite golf crowds.
It's football.
They're football fans. Yeah. And they sing at each other, and they sing with each other, and the atmosphere is electric. And it's grown every 2 years, the event will get stronger and stronger. I did not think you could top Paris. I stood in awe when they finished that. It was the most unbelievable event. We had nearly 10,000 people on the first tee. It was magic.
The noise
and the atmosphere and the gladiatorial. I mean, 4 players walk out into that cauldron and somehow have the talent to pull the club away and smash it 300 yards down the middle. Unbelievable. I didn't think you could top it. You then go to Rome. It was even better. And this is in a country that doesn't really know much about golf. But the magic of that crowd, American fans, European fans, and being in Rome, being within 10 kilometres of the Colosseum. And, we're doing the gladiatorial thing, wow, look at the comparisons. It was amazing. We now go to New York, which will be obviously quiet and really hear the fans there at that one. But it'll be fantastic. You take what was the success of Rome, you go to New York. In 27, we come back to Ireland. Irish fans, golf is in their DNA. We've been to France and to Italy because they were semi-emerging golfing nations, and we hope that'll kick-start talent coming from those countries. Ireland, the Irish have always shown off in the Ryder Cup. Most of the winning putts over the years have been held by Irishmen. Paul McGinney was a wonderful captain. You look at what's going on, and then you layer in Rory and what Shane did. We're going back to Portrush at the Open. So I cannot wait for Ryder Cup there in 27. And it's something people just look forward to. It attracts a golf audience, but a non-golf audience. If you're a sports fan, even if you're not tuning in for all of our events week in, week out, you will not miss the Ryder Cup. I remember, it was you talk about your mother's influence. It was my mother's influence, Sue, who I remember I'd been offered the job and I was talking to my brother. And I said, I've got this chance to go and do the Ryder Cup. He said, well, you're happy with it. I said, I am. But he went, Ryder Cup? He knows nothing. He's a writer. He has no interest in golf. He said that's the event she loves more than anything else in sport. She would lock the front door, 3 days, ready meals, and hide behind the sofa because she couldn't watch, because it's that compelling. So, decision made, I had to take the job. But it is, I think, not just, the best thing we've got in golf, because people play for the right reasons, continent, country, whatever. I think it's one of the great sporting events.
I agree. And you've mentioned that now 3 times. It was a topic last time, obviously. It was quite funny, built a lot of the animosity, but it was around the remuneration and pay. And in sport now, generally the top performances, no matter what it is, you get paid, even international. Why has this been different? I understand why it's important, but through the evolution of sport, when things have changed, why has this been different and I guess remained as it was, as just that pure value to a badge?
Again, I know when it's best to let people a lot more competent than me speak, and basically what I should be doing now is quoting what Luke Donald says. And Luke, who is an old client of mine, has turned out to be an absolutely brilliant captain. What he did in Rome was exceptional. He's agreed to do it again. He's going again as captain in New York. And he, better than anyone, and he has been very smart. He's learnt from those that have gone before, all the other great captains. And what they've realised is there is a reason why European players who are lower in the world rankings than their American counterparts, with a fairly consistent basis for the last 30, 40 years, have won. And they've done that because of a spirit and a team spirit and a way that they come together. And I'm not criticising the Americans at all. All I know is I've seen it with the Europeans. They come together in a way that is utterly magical. And Luke has tapped into that. And he said, it's because you're playing with something, for something a lot bigger. It's not to do with money. It's to do with playing for each other, playing country, continent, the history. And, in a way, they're playing for all of those. They're also playing a little bit for our tour. And it puts a spring in everyone's step when they defy the odds and win against what are unbelievably talented American teams. Home and away, they compete. And that's why I think that the fact that no one talks about what they get paid, it's you're leaving history. You're doing something that will utterly define your career. And I remember being back in the day as an agent. I would say majors, Order of Merits, you will get huge respect for what you do there. But you'll be truly loved if you are a superstar at the Ryder Cup.
But also, as like a capitalist that I am, as an agent, I'm like, hello, exposure. I care about the brand deals. I care about BA putting a big check in my pocket at the end of the day, the Colgate advert that Instagram will get. Like, this is great business for you as the individual enterprise.
100%. And you sit there, and because now I'm far, far more scrupulous than that because I'm obviously part of the governing body. But back in the day, as an agent,
you'd be thinking the same.
Someone would have gone, what's it worth? And you'd have worked it out. And you've got to do it in a proper way. You don't be exploitative. But if you're a brilliant captain, fantastic part of the team, behind the team, or a player, the value is immense. And there are players whose careers have been pretty well defined.
Ian Poulter.
Back in the day,
never won the top prizes individually.
I worked with Monty, who had an astonishing individual career, 8 Order of Merit, unbelievable, winner around the world. But because he played it seemed better in a team environment than he did in an individual. Everyone loved him. You look at Luke as a captain. Luke, utterly one of the most brilliant amateurs I've ever seen, came out, became world number one, won tournaments all over the world. But what will his legacy be? His legacy will be, I think he was unbeaten as a player in the Ryder Cup, or their teams were unbeaten. And as a captain, he clearly is a genius. He's an unbelievable leader. And I thought he'd be good. I had no idea he was going to be quite as brilliant as he is. And he has a great team. He learns from those that have gone before, and that will be his legacy.
Was the job what you thought it would be? When you had that conversation with your brother,
yes.
and you remember your mother's love with the competition and with the Ryder Cup, and you're going in, and I'm sure you have some expectations, some visions. Was it what you thought it would be?
No, it wasn't. Yeah. Because I had loved working with the players. Again, talentless, but watching real talent on display, and having had the chance to work with the old big three in the Tiger era and moving into this new era, I loved it and worked on players. But the chance to go for the Ryder Cup was so much bigger and better than I thought it would be. I loved that. But also going from being a dodgy agent to being a supposedly respectable, not quite, person working for the governing body, I really loved. One, because the people I got to work with, I was astonished, the talent we had there at the tour. I love still working for the players, but in a slightly different way. They don't have to phone me and ask me to book a return flight, but they'd ask me to make sure the prize money levels go up. But I didn't expect it to be as enjoyable as I found it. And having done 6 or 7 years of that, and then with all of those years of kind of, picking up stuff around golf, my one job is to know everyone in the sport and what's going on. To then be given the chance to be the CEO, which I got a year ago, was, an unbelievable privilege. Yeah. I've taken my time to get there. You'll have interviewed people who have been CEOs and moved on in 25. I've taken decades. But what it does mean, I brought all of that knowledge and experience. I kind of know what's going on. And I have to say, I love it. And people go, but all this stuff that's going on. I'm like, yeah, I know. But actually, I reckon 85% of what I do I love, and 15% is quite hard. Well, anyone's going to take that. In fact, most people will take the reverse. So it's not been what I expected, but I think it's been better than I thought.
Can you take me to a situation where you didn't know what to do in that 15%? When you get to a situation where you just don't know what to do, and what happened?
The way I've always tried to work, and particularly in the role that I've been doing, is kind of followed a mantra, which is listen. I talk too much. But I try to listen. I shut up and I listen to my members, to players, to those that know better than me, listen to my team. I got to work for the man that created the sports marketing business, Mark McCormack. He was a genius. Teddy Forsman bought the business after Mark died, and he taught us how to be businessmen. I then got to work for Ari Emanuel, who's a genius. And took the business in an innovative way that you'd never believe. I have people around me on committees that... I have Richard Scudamore, who ran the English Premier League. He advises on the Ryder Cup. I've got Ian Ritchie, who did Wimbledon and the RFU. You've got people who, they just know so much more. So I listen, I learn.
Surround yourself.
And then surround yourself, not only with people who you can listen to, but also kind of empower a team, which is a mixture of those who've got experience, but also a lot of people who come with fresh thinking. Because, when it comes to talking about tech and innovation and how our content, you almost ban anyone who's over 30 from the room. I certainly shouldn't be allowed to say. They don't want to know that. But bring in people and have that. The old adage, and I remember Mark saying it to me, hire people who you think are better than you. And it's tough to do, but if you do it, it works. It really does. But it's also something that I did learn from someone, which I found really interesting. It's kind of one of the best lessons I was ever given along the way, which was... human nature is such, we could all sit here and go, what am I like at this? What am I like at that? Whatever else. Mark yourself out of 10. And I'm, most of mine are pretty low, but you're going to go, it's 3s or 4s out of 10. And maybe I've got a 6 or a 7 somewhere. Human nature is go work really hard, improve your 3 to 4. And I remember someone saying, don't do that. Someone else will do that better for you. Take your 7 to a 10. And it is recognizing what you can bring and what you can't bring. And doing that has really helped.
What is your 10?
Yeah.
I think the fact that I've done as long as I have in the sport means that I have got experience and knowledge which will really help. We have got a bunch of people coming in very senior positions to the sport of golf who are new to golf, and that's a really good thing because they come with fresh thinking, experience from other areas. It's really healthy. Someone like a Mark Darban who's come into the RNA, who I think will do a wonderful job. Really like working with him, and he brings ideas and thinking that I wouldn't have. I have a ton of experience. Put those two together. Internally, I've got people, I can use that knowledge a little bit, but I think the best and the biggest experience I've had, because I was never always a great delegator. In the role I now have, I have to be, and I'm lucky enough to have, and have brought in people who are fantastic. So where I'm not a 10, I've got people who are 10s. So when you look at that first tee, I'll be looking at it going, how much have you been directly responsible for? Very little. But we've got all the right people in the right places to make that and every other event we do brilliant. What Luke does, he's built an unbelievable team around him, and he listens and learns and makes his decisions. That's a great mantra to go with. Build the best team you can possibly have and let them loose, empower them, don't get in the way, guide with a little bit of experience, and then aim for the highest. We have to put on the best events we possibly can. If you go to a National Open, that's got to be the greatest event that's ever been played in that country. Our big signature events, our Rolexes have to be perfect, and the Ryder Cup's got to be the best thing in golf.
What do the 400 members most want from you that is most hard to supply or to do?
I mean, it's too easy to say that your job is only to make them earn as much prize money as they can. But they deserve that, and that's what I should work towards. But they're not just about that. These guys work really hard to show their talent in front of as many as they can, both on screen but at tournaments. They want to play in tournaments that have huge crowds, strong fields, people roaring them on. They want their tour that they're really proud to have got onto to be the best tour it can be. And for sure, I sometimes ask them to travel long distances and go from here to here to here. And we try and coordinate the schedule. I've got a team who are brilliant at trying to put it into the swings. We'll have a Far Eastern here, and we'll have Middle Eastern here and European here. But even so, you ask them to travel. But as long as they know when they get there, everything will be done in a really professional way. Yeah. And we don't get it right the whole time. In fact, we get it wrong a lot of the time. But we'll listen and learn and improve. As long as they turn up feeling like they're playing in a really important tournament with a wonderful history, the right sort of prize money, they're looked after properly, they've got the range to go practice on, all the right facilities, a support team that allow them to play at their very best. Then, where you go, guys. We've given you your platform, now go be brilliant. And generally, when you build the right platform, they are. Because if you look at how some of the events we've had, the drama that's unfolded, I mean, Augusta was, as you say, exhausting. The Ryder Cup, every time that event, even if it isn't actually that close, it feels that close.
The last one, you meant Rome. We walked into it and we were like, "Oh, this is ours, guaranteed." We'd smashed them the first few days.
Correct.
And actually, the board was very red.
Oh,
you would end up looking at them and going, "Well, if Fleetwood doesn't win that, there's 5 games below it which are red. Suddenly, this could get down to one of the final 2."
Totally right. I mean, they had clean sweep on Friday. Luke wanted a fast start. Boy, did he get one. They didn't get a point, and until whenever it was. That you looked at it and you go, well, how can we not win? But it always does. Incredibly tense. And you're absolutely right. I had come out and I was thinking, I have to be impartial. All that matters is it's a wonderful event, but wouldn't it be nice if Europe won? Wouldn't it be nice for Luke and the team? And I was standing somewhere between 16 green and 17 tee. And I suddenly realised there was someone else doing the same, but standing on the other side of the tee, and it was Luke. And he's ice cool. I wasn't. And I'm looking at the board like you going, could be Tommy, could be Sepp, oh, could be Shane, oh, could be Bob. But that last point had to come from somewhere. And this is the thing that people underestimate. Winning is really hard. Guys compete week in, week out and do brilliantly and finish top 5s and top 10s. But winning a golf tournament, as Rory showed, as the team showed then, it's really hard. And if you listen to any of the pros who've gone through all these years to give themselves a chance on a Sunday afternoon, I think it was Davis Love said, give ourselves a chance to throw up all over ourselves, because they'll miss out, they'll mess up, but in the end, the door will open and they'll walk through. But it's hard.
But that's why I was so surprised that Ricky gave the putt, because he based there was a putt, let's say, that we've all missed, and every top golfer I'd imagine has missed one of them. It was close, but it wasn't that close.
I think it's fair.
I think Tommy had it for. I mean, he had it for it. Now, if you're standing over that putt for the Ryder Cup, knowing that that point is hugely important, you can miss that. Well, but they conceded it,
and they can see it. No, and you're absolutely right. And Ricky, who's a great guy, and he said, I'd have given it in any other environment. Why wouldn't I give it there? And that's almost. I mean,
it's the spirit.
For us, there are many magic moments in our history, but the concession in Ryder Cup history is, for me, a moment that defines golf in almost no other way. Jack Nicklaus, I know you'll have heard of, and Tony Jacklin, and they were the two best golfers from America and from the UK, came down the stretch at Birkdale in the Ryder Cup, final hole. And I think that it was about 3 feet from the hole. And Tony needed to make the putt to halve the match. And Jack, and it, again, as you described, eminently missable, even for someone of the talent of a Tony Jacklin, who was a brilliant player. And Jack went up to him, picked up his marker, gave it to him, conceded the putt, and said, Tony, I didn't think you were going to miss it, but I didn't want to give you the chance to. And that showed what a man Jack Nicklaus was, but it also showed you playing the event, playing the sport in the right spirit is utterly unique. And for me, that's a moment we've got to cherish. The concession could only happen in golf, and it could only, I think, happen in the Ryder Cup. So it's very cool.
If the world of golf players was a stock market, which would you buy and hold?
When you say buy, what do you mean in terms of...
which would you invest in and hold?
Players or assets?
Players.
Players. Ooh,
so you could say, Rory,
question.
It's going to be an expansive buy price, but what he's going to do to transform the game is...
You need probably an ABC. You need an emerging...
He's like NVIDIA, kind of obvious, but...
Yeah, I mean, it'd be hard not to look at him right now, because I think he's just freed himself up with what he's achieved to play with the freedom that someone with his talent could be really dangerous. I mean, what I think you would do, because people look at it and you go, we've got great characters in the game of golf, but what's really interesting is golf recycles and regenerates itself really quickly. So you'll be looking at a player, someone like a Scotty Scheffler, who suddenly comes out and from almost nowhere, and he's suddenly world number one, and he's a dominant world number one. You've got guys who are amateurs who are winning, Nick Dunlap in the States, winning as an amateur. So what you would do with your canny investment is you would go and say, right, where is there coming an enormously talented young player, either emerging from the US college system, from the European amateur world, or globally, probably from one of those emerging nations, if someone were to emerge with the talent and charisma of a Tiger or a Rory from, say, India or China, that could be transformational. Because we take tournaments to those countries, and it needs two things. It needs the global superstar to attract the attention, and everyone goes, oh, wow, it's a big event. But what the locals want to see is also their local heroes.
You need a Virat Kohli for golf.
Yeah. Well, you do. You need a Virat Kohli, but Virat Kohli's kind of done it all. What you actually want is Virat Kohli when he's 16.
Totally.
It's the kid from IPL. You know,
the 14-year-old.
Oh, unbelievable. How extraordinary was that? I mean, I love my cricket. I watched that wide-eyed. I want him. I want his brother.
I'm buying Oberg, by the way.
Oberg.
If I'm looking at one now, I'm like, you're Ludwig Oberg.
Yeah. He's showing extreme knowledge of the game, because I completely agree.
I'm by Matteo Manacero.
Oh, well, now Matteo is a wonderful story. So I've got to tell you that, because Ludwig is extraordinary, generational talent. Luke was studying him. He emerges as a guy who's an amateur. He's never played a major, and he's suddenly in the Ryder Cup team, and he's beating some of the best players in the world by miles.
They literally made Scotty Scheffler cry.
Absolutely, and all credit to Scotty for doing that. What Victor and Ludwig did was amazing. So either of those. But Matteo is a wonderful story.
Thank you.
Because, well done. I signed him as what I thought was the most gifted 15-year-old. He played with Tom Watson in the Turnberry Open, which Tom nearly won, which would have been one of the greatest stories, 60-year-old winning. Matteo, 15, by the time he was 19, he'd won more tournaments at that age than Tiger and Rory put together. He was going to be the biggest star in the world. He then encountered what all golfers can have, which was a complete loss of form. And he didn't just go off a bit. I mean, he disappeared for nearly a decade. He had the mental fortitude to fight his way back, to graft, and he comes back and he starts winning on what was then the Challenge Tour. Then he won on our tour. He graduated and won a card to the PGA Tour. He's now playing on the PGA Tour. In terms of inspiring stories of having the resilience to fight through adversity and come back and play at the highest level, the teaming of Ludwig and Matteo together would be magic.
I would love to have him on the show. That would be an amazing guest.
Story, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, he's a utterly delightful man. You'd get a great interview.
Can I be blunt? Like, did he make a lot of money very early? Like, because a lot of people just think, won a load of trophies, fine, he's great. Like, do you make a lot of money in this?
He did, because, sponsorship rewards talent. It really rewards young talent. Coming from a different market, and a young Italian, it was perfect. Good looking, articulate, he had it all. And he did make money early on, but not enough to sustain him through tough times. I mean, he's got through that through strength. Wonderful wife, family, got him through it. But at the end of the day, was that the motivating factor? But he won our big event at Wentworth at 19. You don't normally do that. He wants his name back on those trophies, and you can see that that's the motivating factor. And if you can imagine, you've gone from that peak being talked about as the next big thing to suddenly struggling to make the cut on an Alps Tour event. That's tough. And at no moment did he lose his charm and his cheeriness and positivity. I'm sure he did. I'm sure he went home and kicked the proverbial cat. But you never saw it. And that's why I think he's come back. But this is where podcasting and golf are really good, because it doesn't matter. You can do that. Matteo can have a decade away from the very top. He's still a young man. So he's got all the time in golf to achieve that. And you can do the same.
Do you worry with the agent background of distractions and losing focus and mindset with the commercial success that comes? Manacero suddenly gets very hot. You can put him in every BA, Evian advert. Does it mess with your mind a little bit?
It's such a good question. And it's the thing you sit there as an agent doing, because what your job is then, very different from it is now, then my job was, he can sort out how good he is at golf. He'll work on it himself. He'll work it with his coaches. My job is to make sure I maximize commercially that talent. But you want to do it in a compatible way. So don't go, hey, you're playing really well, let's change your clubs. You wouldn't do that. You might change the shirts you wear. You might change the logos that are on those shirts. That doesn't affect how you play. So you have to do it in a considerate way. There have been occasions where I think athletes in different areas have been overexploited. And, they've ended up, I've got a week off. Oh, no, I haven't. I've got 3 photo shoots. When I need to, downtime, practice, decompress, whatever. Getting the balance right is the job of any agent. And I think probably golf's changed a little bit. You can make a lot off course, doing things right that don't involve having to make vast time commitments. Look what Rory's done. He's a very, very canny businessman and investor. You can find ways of doing it. If you can stay fit and well and mentally strong and keep working on your game, the rewards that can be earned in prize money around the world are pretty good.
On reflection, you don't need to say names, did you ever, overexploit sounds awful, but overfill, overcommit one of your talents? And what did you learn from that?
I think the one thing I could know with absolute knowledge is that I might share as much advice and counsel as I possibly could to my clients. They mainly ignored it. But so in the end, my gig was always, this is your decision. I'm going to present you with the opportunity, and no is absolutely fine. And if you want my advice to do it or not, I'll tell you. But at the end of the day, it's in your name, it's your time, you decide. I don't feel, as I look back, there were times when I'd driven people to overdo it. Because in golf, again, it's a long career. You're not going to say do it because you might be gone in 5 minutes. You've got a 30, 40-year career if you nurture it. Arnie was the perfect example. Tiger will be. Rory will be. So I don't think I did that. I think there were players who probably saw all these opportunities, leapt at them, and I might well have probably, maybe should have stepped in and gone, are you sure? I've spent 6 months working on a deal. Maybe I should have said, ignore that and say no. And there are moments you look back, I don't think of any specifics, but in the end of the day, the way top golfers get really good is by not blaming. If they've got a reason to, it was raining. Oh, caddy gave me a bad yardage. You do stuff like that, you've got to own it. We all know the mistakes we make, own them. The players have to, hey, I messed up that hole. Move on. I can do brilliantly on the next one. Rory showed it in Augusta.
Incredible.
He played some of the greatest shots I've ever seen, and some shots that I suspect he wouldn't say were his greatest. But what did he do? He bounced back. And that's the extraordinary ability. It's that ability to come back from something that's been bad, whether it's a shot or a hole or a tournament, and then come back and play your best. And I think that's what defines the really great players.
Totally agree. Great people in life.
Great people. I totally agree. Come back, bounce back. You may have completely messed up, but there's a way back.
It's the Roger Federer speech. Did you see it?
Yeah.
I've won 54% of points, but I've won 81% of matches. It's like, well, I've lost as much as I won, but in those moments that mattered, I just was able to find that level.
And totally right. Inspiring man. Guess what his new sport is?
Golf.
There you go.
Should we do a quick fire?
Yeah, I've got some real...
You go first.
So quick fire. Player that you'd most want standing over a 10-foot putt to win the Ryder Cup for Europe?
So hard. I think purely because he'd have willed it into the hole, it would be a real fight between Seve and Ollie. But in the end of the day, I'd probably have to say Seve.
Who did you not work with in your agent life that you would most like to have worked with?
When I started at IMG, Mark McCormack, who was a very clever man, had not only signed the big three, but he'd signed an entire generation of golfers who were all born within a year of each other, and they defined the sport for decades. And that was Sir Nick Faldo, Woosie, Bernard Langer, Sandy Lyle, who am I missing?
Sergio Garcia.
No. Nick and Bernard, Woosie, Sandy, and Seve.
Ernie Els.
Seve. No. Ernie's younger. Those 5 Europeans and Greg Norman and Nicky Price, Zimbabwean. Those 7 players, all born within a year of each other, were incredibly impressive. And I think we worked with all of them as clients, except Seve. And for me, you talk about charisma, and Tiger, extraordinary charisma. Arnie, Jack, Rory, others. But when Seve walked into a room, everyone knew. And he was, he was dashingly good looking. He played golf in a way you couldn't believe. You look at the European players and you listen to the other guys in that big 5, the Nicks, the Sandys, Bernards, Woosies. They talk about Seve in reverential tones. And it's not just because we've lost him, but he played in this unbelievably cavalier. He was the heartbeat of the European team. So I would have loved to have had the chance to work with him. Mark would have loved to work with him, but we didn't quite make it happen.
How do you choose a Ryder Cup captain?
Well, we have a very distinct approach, which means it isn't down to one individual.
He calls me.
Yeah, I obviously phone experts. Actually, we do phone all the stakeholders in European golf whose opinion I would be interested in. So I want to listen to past players. I want to listen to current players. I want to listen to past captains. I want to listen to my Ryder Cup committee. I want to listen to the Ryder Cup board. I want to listen to my own board. Listen to other people and who do they think. And it's fascinating to see. Now, the players made it kind of easy last time because they all stood round Luke at the prize giving in Rome and started chanting 2 more years. Yeah. So the question was, would Luke go again? Because as you know, it's normally been do it once and move on. And it's a long time since, I think it's back to Bernard Gallagher, since someone's done a home and away. But they wanted Luke. I consulted my stakeholder group, but the truth is it was listening to all of that. And in that instance, it became very easy. It was then a question of would he go again? Because he had just done something truly extraordinary. I mean, the European team got really taken down in Whistling Straits in 2020. I mean, they got beaten badly. And some of the US team, perhaps unwisely, I think had said, we can't lose this for a decade. And they're right in the sense that they had the most extraordinary talent in that team. And what Luke did in one match is turn it round, and he sent out the Europeans believing they would win, and they did.
Even selecting someone like Oberg, as you said, who's never played a major, to have the confidence to have that in your 12 and put the person in there, not just as a golfer, but also as a man, right? Able to handle that pressure.
He knew he could handle it. And you looked at it and you said, well, what do you do with a Ludwig? Well, he's the young buck. What do? You send him out with the old, wily old pro, like he did, Justin Rose and Bob McIntyre, brilliant. What do? You send him out with Victor Hovland, who's, like 6 months older than him and a veteran. I mean, and those two won by the biggest margin ever.
Scandi power.
It was Scandi power, but it was brilliant leadership. And that's because you got a guy who took it so seriously. I mean, Luke lives, eats, breathes, reads, speaks to people. He communicates every week with his team. And I get the chance to read it, and it's astonishing. Luke is really impressive. And as I always said, he doesn't always say the most, but what he says you've got to listen to.
Which player do you think leverages their brand the best?
Brand. So there are players who eke out everything they're best from their talent, but that's a different question.
Yeah, no, brand.
Who leverages their brand best? In the past, I think Arnie set an example that it would be tough to follow. I mean, he endorsed everything. He was brilliant. He made every sponsor feel very special. Tiger, because Tiger is probably the greatest player there's ever been, has also, I mean, that brand you cannot ignore. And it's handy he's called Tiger. And he's brilliant, and he's cool, and all of those things. Right now, I would say that Rory. I really do. I think Rory's very, very clever. It is not just about the brands he endorses. He is much more an investor. It's the brands that he likes to support. And you would be surprised by the number of things that he's supported. He has a brilliant team around him. He himself has some great insights. He builds relationships. Everything we do as a tour is about building relationships. 50 years of relationships around the world. If people trust you, then you can go and do things, tournaments and whatever else. Rory does the same. He works with amazing brands, amazing people, and he, as a result, I think his brand will just grow and grow.
Right, last one. Pressure's on.
Oh, yeah. Dream 4 ball. You're one of the players. You have 3 slots.
I don't think he played. But I'd love to have had Muhammad Ali in a group. I think Sean Connery definitely did, and of course Bond. How could you not play with him? And a recent addition, I don't know. I have to say, having met him at Augusta, I quite like the thought of playing with Michael McIntyre. I think he plays in the way that we like, which is a lot of laughter and not quite sure where the ball's going to go. So that mirrors my golf.
Muhammad Ali, Sean Connery, and Michael McIntyre.
Wow. Strong 4-ball.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Upset's not being included, but fine.
Yeah, no, but it's in time. I haven't seen your swing or your stand-up abilities.
Don't worry, I'm playing with Monty, so...
And so you should do, and Luke will be taking a look, I'm sure.
This has been so much fun.
Thank you. I really enjoyed that. That was very
Loved
good.
it.
Thank you.
Whoa. Before you go anywhere, it's time for extra time.
Perfect. Okay, now we can start. Hey-o.
Hey, that was fun.
Who are we talking about today?
We are talking about Guy Kinnings. Guy is the chief executive of the DP World Tour.
Is he the one with the 26 countries in it?
What's that?
The 26 countries.
Nah.
Yeah. Dude, I googled it.
Oh, no, I have no idea what I was saying.
They were mentioning this. US
sorry, you're talking
versus
about
UK.
Yeah, but now you're back in the...
But this is the Ryder Cup, no?
Yeah.
If you subscribe to our Patreon, you get the chance to maybe...
Go to a Ryder Cup. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, you could do, but I'm not going to lie. If we get something here to be gifted, I'm probably going myself. So
With one of you. No? Oh, it's for the promo, man.
yeah, sure.
We're doing this for
You guys can come to the Ryder Cup if you follow and sign up to our Patreon.
Next week, we're gonna have as a special guest... He's the guy from the Sidemen.
Inspiring. He's not the guy from Sidemen.
Okay, we have a giveaway.
It's a really good giveaway. It's hard to beat this giveaway, to be honest.
Yeah.
This isn't just to, come have fun, listen to us chat rubbish.
You will have personalized photos from Charlie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sure.
Who wants that?
You can win a chance to spend an evening with Charlie, for example.
Okay, mate.
It's for the promo. Buono, dai, we have it. Sorry, golf is not my thing, so I wasn't...
Yeah, I can
I
tell.
went all over the place.